Did you know one of the most expensive cigars in the world were discovered by archaeologists from Tampa University while excavating sites around Guatemala? The cigars were 600 years old and were sold at an auction for $507,000. The cigars were called Mayan cigars.
Learn to monetize your passion. Listen and learn from some of the greatest entrepreneurs as they discuss exactly what motivates them, inspires them, and keeps them on the grind. You only have one shot. Do not miss your chance. This is On the Grind with Chirag T. Patel.
On the Grind, number 7. Grind Nation, hope you guys are doing well and continuing your everyday efforts to reach your goals and persevere through all obstacles and challenges. Just remember, when times are tough, that's when greatness is made. So don't give up and keep pushing. Now, if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, my name is Chirag T. Patel, and the T is very important. Today's guest, I have the world-renowned Rocky Patel. He is one of the top cigar brands in the world. His cigars have won many awards and have been praised worldwide due to such delicate process of making each and every one of them. Rocky has separated himself from the competition and made a name that he stands behind due to the high quality of which he produces them at. In this episode, Rocky talks about his journey of when he used to be a Hollywood attorney and smoke cigars with celebrities in between filming movies. Then, this caught his attention and he was immediately drawn into the cigar world. But in order to make a transition into the world he had no clue about, took incredible amount of sacrifice and work. He has built a very unique brand and he has a very unique story. His work ethic is second to none. After interviewing Rocky, one thing I admired was he built his brand before there was any social media. He did it the old school way. He went door to door and face to face around the world to gain each and every customer. Today, most of us can't even think about that because we are so spoiled by having social media to connect with people and run our businesses on. Just think about that. What would you do and how would you run your business today if you didn't have social media? That would be crazy. Also, I'm reaching out to all entrepreneurs, especially if you live in Atlanta, Georgia. If you are a startup and need to get your company into the hands of the masses, then please reach out to me. I am launching a marketing platform for startups that will help you get your brand out into the right hands and save you an insane amount of time and money. I know firsthand how tough it is to start a business, but getting the word out and marketing your company is critical to success. Please email me or hit me up on social media for more information or go to onthegrindradio.com. All right, Grind Nation, you know the saying, if you're not on the grind, then you're behind. Rocky, you ready to talk about the grind?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the early 90s, Rocky Patel was a former Hollywood attorney who was introduced to the cigar world by spending time with A-list celebrities smoking cigars in between making movies. Now, after his initial introduction into the cigar world, Rocky started from scratch with just an idea and the love for cigars. Today, after 20 years in the business, Rocky has built one of the most amazing cigar brands in the world, including some of the highest rated cigars on the planet. But before Rocky became a household name, before even introducing the world to his first cigar, or before opening up his factory down in South America, there was a ridiculous amount of work and hustle to become one of the best cigar aficionados. Rocky, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Definitely. Thank you for your time. Before we get into your grueling and undeniable work ethic, let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're from? What city did you grow up in and what you were like as a kid?
Yeah, I was actually born in India. I grew up and spent most of my time in Bombay. And then I went to boarding school in Dehradun, a Doon school. And I was there till I was 14 years old. And then we moved to Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I went to high school. And then went to undergrad and graduate school at the University of Wisconsin. And then finally law school in Los Angeles in California. lived there, practiced there, and I think I lived there for around 20 years or so, and then moved to Naples, Florida in 99, which is when we really started pushing forward with the premium cigar industry.
When did you start your first career as a lawyer? What year was that?
I want to say around 92, something like that. 90,
Okay. And how many
maybe
years
88. I don't know. It's been so long. Maybe 88.
how many years did you do that for?
About 8.
Okay. Did you enjoy it? Like, did you enjoy being a lawyer? How was that daily grind for working with celebrities?
I mean, I enjoyed it. You know, I started off doing a lot of litigation, products liability litigation, and some other things, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that I loved getting into the courtroom. I loved, mediations and arbitrations, and basically arguing for my client, negotiating for my client, fighting for my client. And there's a true art to it. Not only do you have to do your homework and be well versed at whatever industry or topic that you might be defending your client on, but then it's really how you present that oral argument to the jury, to the court, to the arbitrator, to the mediator, and convince them. And there's a true skill and art in it. And I really miss that, and I enjoy that very much. But I certainly don't miss practicing law anymore.
How did you get into the cigar business? How did you make that transition, or how were you introduced to it?
Well, essentially, we were always on these movie sets, and people were waiting for lighting, sound, makeup. Sometimes you wait 2 to 3 hours, and many of the celebrities were smoking cigars. So I started smoking cigars. Some of the producers were smoking cigars. So I started kind of just smoking, dabbling into cigars here and there. And then pretty soon the Grand Havana Room, which is a private cigar lounge in Beverly Hills, opened up next to my office. I was one of the original members there. Then all the celebrities started joining. We'd just go there after work and hang out, relax, smoke a cigar. And then some young kid approached me to make cigars for fun. And we started it kind of as a hobby. And then pretty soon I'd invested way more money than I ever wanted to invest into the deal. And then the next thing I realized that he was just spending my money recklessly. So I bought him out, and I was stuck with this company knowing nothing about tobacco. And everyone told me, forget about it. You'll never get your money back. This is a business that's handed down from generation to generation. This is not something that you can just learn. You're never going to get your money back. Just, learn, chalk it up to experience. And when somebody tells me I can't do something, that's when I get my antlers up. And I said, there's no way I'm going to show these guys. So I went to the Dominican Republic, Honduras, Nicaragua, asked a lot of dumb questions, worked in the farms and the curing and the fermentation, made thousands and thousands of blend over time to educate my palate. This is over 7 years. And I saw what people were doing wrong and what people were doing right. And I tried to implement the best things. And in a way, it was a blessing, because not having come from within the industry, not having a father or grandfather within the industry from Cuba or wherever, I got to actually sort through all the factories, farms, curing, fermentation, and see what were the best practices that could be, employed into our own factory. And I always saw where people were taking shortcuts, what they were doing wrong. And hence, we started off with the strictest quality control standards anybody could implement on a particular product, especially a handmade product called a premium cigar. And when we had the opportunity to do that, that's when I put my name on our first cigar, which was our vintage brand, and called it Rocky Patel. And I remember at that time, my brother and my cousin and other people working at our company going, who the hell wants to buy Rocky Patel? Why would you put your name on it? Because before, the company was called Indian Tobacco Cigar Company, based on Indian motorcycles. So that's kind of the whole, that's how I got into it.
Gotcha. When you went down to South America and you were educating yourself, did you had already quit being a lawyer?
No, I was still practicing, and I was juggling both at the time. So it was in 1999 when I decided to move to Florida, and we basically started almost out of my garage with 3 employees. And that's when we decided to take it on full time, and I got rid of the practice of law. And in 99 is when I never looked back.
Now, when you bought your first batch of cigars, your first inventory, obviously you didn't know what you were doing, but getting started off on the wrong foot, did you know you wanted to continue doing this?
Well, early in 96, 97, we were having other people making cigars for us. And at that time, I would make a great blend, but then there would be so much inconsistency in the product because somebody else was making it and they were taking shortcuts. They would change the wrapper, the binder, they wouldn't ferment the tobacco enough. And so, I'd order $200,000 worth of cigars, and sometimes I'd want to cry because I'd smoke them and they'd be so different from box to box. And I'd be on the road selling them, and they would sell while I was there. But once I left, then they wouldn't sell. So I knew it was a long-term losing proposition. So early on, we decided to take complete control of the quality control of our product. I certainly blend every cigar myself, even though a lot of people and our competitors and they don't want to admit it because that's kind of a tactical advantage that they try to have with creating falsehoods. But I absolutely blend every single cigar myself. I'm very involved in the whole process. And so early on, we decided to be vertically integrated and starting having control of the curing, the farms, the fermentation, the blending. And now we're completely vertically because we have vertically integrated because we have our own farms in Esteli, Nicaragua, and Condega, Nicaragua. We have our own factory in Esteli. So we have our hands on top of the complete process, and there's 300 different hands that touch the whole cigar making process. So it's a very complex, convoluted process. And along that chain of custody, if you take a shortcut, then you're going to have an inferior product.
Right. And your business takes a lot of patience, right? To make one cigar, what is an average time?
Absolutely. By the time we plant a seedling in the ground, the time we get a cigar in a box takes almost 4 to 5 years. 300 different hands touch the tobacco. So it truly is a labor of love. It's a culture that's transcended over generation, that is an art form and true cottage industry.
Right. And then when you made that transition from Indian tobacco to actually putting your own name on it, what was your game plan? Did you have a business plan? What was your vision? How are you going to scale this company?
Well, I mean, our goal was to try and make the best products, period. And when I say that, we wanted to make cigars that were completely consistent and to eliminate human error as much as possible and make them so they're perfect in construction, perfect in draw. And then we wanted to make blends that are unique and different. We started out, I think we were one of the first ones to make richer, fuller bodied cigars with our Super Forte and some of the other blends we made compared to what was traditionally on the market, which was very mild and medium bodied and very linear. We started using tobaccos from different parts of the world that most people hadn't used. So certainly our product was unique and different, and the quality was great. And then our packaging and our marketing was also outside the box. We tried to do things that our competitors did not do. We were the leaders and taking chances in many ways with the type of stylistic packaging, the colors, the bright colors, the intricate graphic designs. We were the first ones to come out with a box of 100. Nobody had ever done that. So we really took the opportunity to think outside the box. And I think that is very important for any business person, that I think you have to not only have great quality and consistency in your product, but you have to think outside the box and be different than your competitor and not try to be like your competitor.
Right. And when you first started, from day one till, it probably took you years before you even saw any kind of success. During that time, did you feel like ever giving up? Like, you know what, this is not going to work?
Absolutely. I mean, there were times we were like, oh, why did I get into this? We had a successful law practice. It was very, very difficult because you had an inner circle in the business that grew and sold some of the best tobacco. It was hard to crack that inner circle, to have that tobacco from certain growers in Ecuador and certain growers in Nicaragua. And, we were lucky that we had a good joint venture relationship with the Plasencia family, who's one of the biggest growers of Cuban seed tobacco in the world. It was very hard to get out and get shelf space because people in the cigar business were traditional old businessmen that had been around with these mom and pop shops for decades and sometimes for generations. And they were so old school and set in their ways that they didn't want to try new product. They believed that unless you came from Cuba, unless you were born under a tree in Cuba, unless you were swinging on a swing in Cuba, you couldn't make any good cigars. And they had these traditional notions, that were so set, like I said, in their ways that they didn't want to accept somebody new from the outside that had the possibility to make cigars and make great cigars and consistent cigars. So there was a lot of resistance at the beginning, and it was just persistence, visiting the shops, building relationships with the retailers, cooking for them, getting to know their families, taking off the bands, doing blind tastings. It was road work, 700 cities and 800 days, but it was relentless persistence, never giving up, that we finally cracked the barrier. And every human being always has a button. And the art is being able to know what button to press to try to win that over. And that's a skill. It's not the art of the deal. It's the art of the skill. And
Right.
and you got to know how every single person works and having that art. And I think that was some of the skills I had being a lawyer, being able to read people, knowing how to, win over people. And that transferred into a relationship with each single tobacco store.
Well, let's talk about the grind. You're heralded as one of the hardest working men in the business. You have a grueling schedule, logging more than 300 days on the road with over 150,000 miles. At one point, you were in 600 cities within 750 days.
Yeah.
You can't have a schedule like this if you're not performing at your peak day in and day out. Can you give us a glimpse into your daily grind, especially when you were first starting out?
Well, I mean, I was spending a lot of time going to the factory. So literally, I would have to drive from Naples, Florida to Miami, which is about a 2.5 hour drive, then fly from Miami to Tegucigalpa, which is another 2 hour, 15-minute flight. You were one of the scariest airports to land into. I think it's called the scariest airport in the world because it's literally in a bowl surrounded by mountains. And if there's cloud cover, you just circle, and then all of a sudden the plane would just drop in and be a hard landing. They've had so many crashes there and planes run off the runway. Then you have a drive of about 2 hours to Danli from Tegucigalpa in a mountainous single lane road with major potholes riddling the entire road. People driving without headlights in old cars. There's no rules or regulation. Very dangerous. If you make it alive through there, then you have to get to a country which is very dangerous. They just got done with all the fighting between the Sandinistas and the Contras. It was like the Wild West. People were armed with guns and machetes. Every corner that you looked, people were getting killed, kidnapped, held up. So it was a very dangerous place. And then when you come back to the mainland here, then you get on a plane and literally land in a place like Cleveland, Ohio, and then you'd work the area or the state for 2 or 3 days from 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, let's say, till about 6 in the evening. You'd be visiting accounts, trying to sell your products, spending an hour and a half talking to customers, talking to the retailers, educating the salespeople. And then in the evenings, you'd do an event with one of the retailers, and the events would go till 10, 11, sometimes midnight. By the time you got to the hotel room and checked in, and at that time we didn't have much money, so we stayed at all the dive places. It'd be 1 o'clock in the morning, and then get to bed about 2. Hopefully, you slide in some fast food in you, and then the rigmarole starts all over again. And we would do it 6, 7 days a week, and then you'd work one territory, then you'd fly to another and start again. And in between, you got to do the ironing, the packing, the laundry, the unpacking, the lugging around all the cigars, bringing them in because of temperature, humidity. It was a total pain in the butt. I mean, it was very difficult years, and we did this for 12, 15 years in a row. I mean, we still probably travel more than anybody else, but yeah, it was tough.
Wow.
I don't know how many other people could handle it.
That's ridiculous. Are you on the road by yourself? Do you have partners, family?
Well, no, I'm usually on the road by myself, but then wherever I land, we have a sales rep, and then we drive around with the sales rep.
Okay. And then you probably covered what, most of the United States like this?
I've covered all of the United States, all of Germany, east and west, all of Switzerland, most of Austria, some of Spain, some of France, and many other countries.
Wow. And I was speaking to Dave, and he had told me you were in India recently. How's that going out there?
That's, we have, again, very strict laws for smoking indoors. So you can only smoke mostly at the five-star hotels outside in the gardens or the outdoor areas. But, I think over the last 2 years, I've done about 8 or 9 dinners there in Bangalore and Goa and Bombay and Delhi. In Hyderabad and places like that. So there is a culture there for premium cigars. People are starting to enjoy them. Unfortunately, the taxes are so high that they all buy them at duty-free Dubai. Of course, they're slighted by the whole forbidden fruit of the Cubans, and they think the Cubans are the greatest, but they don't know any better, so they're just brand buying. Unfortunately, most smokers there still, just like the Johnny Blue for Scotch, they think the Cubans, the Monte Cristos, they're name dropping and smoking them. But we all know in the cigar world that those cigars are some of the most inconsistent product made. And they just don't spend enough time on quality, construction, many other topics. So we're trying to change that mentality in India. And slowly, I think it'll just a matter of time.
Now, you talk about quality. That is what your brand is all about, first and foremost. To celebrate your 10 years in the cigar business, you made the 10th anniversary cigar called the Decade. That cigar got a 95 rating. It's considered one of the highest rated cigars. What was the process of making that cigar?
Well, I think we wanted to get some very, very old aged tobaccos. And so one of my favorite wrappers happens to be a Sumatra wrapper from Ecuador. We use one of my favorite binders from the San Andreas region. And then finally, the tobacco from Jamastran in Honduras has a lot of sweetness to it. And then the other tobacco, which is our secret ingredient I can't tell you about, has a lot of rich strength to it. And the combination was the perfect balance. So it was a cigar that had a lot of character, a lot of flavor, but at the same time was elegant and well balanced. The wrapper was beautiful. Each cigar looked like dark pieces of chocolate. The construction was meticulous and perfect. And when I thought that I, after 10 years, created the best blend and constructed the best quality cigars, that's when we called it the Decade by Rocky Patel. And luckily enough, other people thought the same. It was popular, and it was the highest rated cigar in Cigar Aficionado, getting a 95 rating.
One of my first cigar experiences was back in the early 2000s. My parents own a liquor store, so I used to help them out. And one day my dad comes in and he's like, "Do you know Rocky Patel?" And I'm like, "No, who are you talking about?" And I thought it was just some guy in town, but he shows me this nice cigar box, and immediately I was intrigued. So, one day, I grabbed one. Obviously they didn't know about it, but I grabbed one, and then I get together with my friends and we try it. It was one of our first cigar smoking experiences. So I just remember that, and it was the vintage 1990 at the time. But we had no clue how to smoke a cigar or didn't know anything about it. So you're probably not going to like this. We actually cut it with a knife, and, the wrapper started unraveling, and it was just a mess. But, we thought we were cool doing it. But, I'm not a connoisseur of cigars. Maybe when I make my first million, I might, have one every day. But can you tell us the proper etiquette of smoking a cigar?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is you make sure you cut it properly. And I think you can use a V cut or a straight cut. And there's nice cutters out there with sharp blades. And you barely want to cut the top of the cap off. Some people cut the cigar too far and too deep. And when you do that, the cigar will unravel because the way it's constructed, it's meant to leave some of the cap on and just cut off a little bit. So you want to do that. You can also punch the cigar. After you actually cut the cigar, you want to have a nice flame hopefully a butane flame or a natural cedar flame, and you slowly toast the foot of the cigar and you revolve the cigar while you toast it. Once it's nice and toasty, you put it to your mouth, you take a couple small puffs, you make sure the flame is not directly on the tobacco, just a quarter inch off of it so the flame draws up to the cigar, and then you slowly spin it till the head is completely nice and lit. And then you just relax and enjoy and meditate, and you fantasize, you can talk about sports, life, you can get into a conversation, or you can daydream and collect your thoughts.
What's a good drink to go with a cigar, or what do you recommend?
Well, my favorites are, a good bold red wine. I certainly like a good single malt scotch or a good rum, but I think those are the three pairings I suggest, but it's all personal preference.
Well, Rocky, do you rise and grind every day?
Absolutely. I wake up with the foot on the gas and never let go.
But this part of the show, I have a series of questions I'm going to ask you, and just answer them with whatever comes to your mind first. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Name a song that gets you motivated and pumped and makes you feel like you can do anything.
Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen.
Name 3 people that inspire you.
Mahatma Gandhi, Vince Lombardi, and boy, the third one's tough. This is a tricky one. I haven't thought of this question much often. Oh, my grandfather.
Okay. What is your favorite cigar of all time that is not yours?
That is not mine. Of all time.
It's a hard one.
I switch around so much. I like the Padron Aniversarios. I like the La Florida Ligeros. I like some of the old Ashton BSGs. Probably Anejo, Puente Anejo.
And who is that by?
By Puente.
Okay. What is your favorite car in your driveway right now?
My Aston Martin DBS.
Okay. How do you handle stress?
Work out hard.
What's your favorite restaurant?
I just ate at this restaurant in Vienna, Austria, and I thought it was the best meal I had in my lifetime. And it is, give me a second to pull it out. It's called Nicholas something. It was mind-blowingly good. Let me just dig it out.
What kind of food was it?
It was Mediterranean fusion. Here, I got the name. I think. Let me see. It's called Constantine Filippo. And it's in Vienna, Austria. Definitely worth going.
When you say lifetime, that's a pretty big compliment. It must be a really good place.
Because I'm a big foodie. And I ate a night before at a Michelin 2-star, which was excellent, but this blew that away. Even though this is only a Michelin 1-star. And it was not that expensive. It was not, it was mind-blowing.
Wow. What is the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur?
Well, I think the problem is you're constantly putting out fires. So, I'm juggling so many balls every day, whether it's in real estate and development, whether it's at the factories and labor and tobacco and inventory and quality, and whether it's sales or marketing, whether it's the just dealing with lawyers and regulation. There's just so many things that you're handling that you're constantly, you don't have the opportunity to chill and relax. You're just constantly in a go. And so, that's the hardest thing. And for me personally, it's the fear of failure.
And how many hours are you clocking every day?
Oh, I don't even count because I feel like I'm working every hour I'm awake.
In your life so far, what year did you work the hardest and why?
I think it seems to me that probably since I started in 99 through 2012, I don't, that's, because like I said, the fear of failure, that drove me. And I don't think that's probably the hardest I've worked. And also during my period when I went through law school, I mean, I was working full time during the day and going to law school in the evenings because I didn't want to be a poor, starving student.
Right.
And I think I worked 18 hours, 19 hours every day for 4 years then. So that was probably the toughest time of my life.
How do you balance your personal life with so much going on with your business?
It's very difficult. It's hard, and it's hard to have a personal life. You sacrifice a lot of family, friends, and relationships, and unfortunately, that's what you have to give up. Nothing is for free, and sometimes you have to make sacrifices to earn, I guess, success.
You know, when you say fear of failure, when you started your company and you didn't know you were going to make it or become this big, right? And every day you're working, and then in your mind you may be self-doubting you if you're ever going to make it. How do you keep pushing to that end goal, not knowing you're going to make it?
Well, I mean, I always fear failure. In fact, I get dreams. I got one the other day, 2 days ago, where I didn't pass the bar exam, or I didn't make it through law school and I wasn't getting good grades, or, something's going wrong with the company. So that motivates me. It's easy to kind of climb through a certain threshold, but it's much easier to fall from that threshold. And that's what drives me.
Nice. Rocky, this is what I called the golden nugget. And this is part of the show. I want you to give your best piece of advice. Entrepreneurship is one of the hardest jobs in the world. You're basically making something out of nothing. You've built an amazing brand, scaled it from zero to a multi-million-dollar company. What advice can you give to aspiring entrepreneurs out there that can use right away in their journey?
Well, I think first thing is you can't be undercapitalized. You need to have the capital resources or you will certainly fail. The second thing is you better have somebody who's a good chief financial officer that really understands everything with regards to the money you spend, accounts receivable, net margins, gross margins. And so you better have a basic understanding of that. You better have a product that you pick that is unique and different and better than any competition. So even if you're going to build a pizza restaurant, I would open it right across from the biggest competitor, and you better make sure that your product is better right off the hand and consistent. And you need to start thinking outside the box as far as marketing. I mean, a prime example is look at Lady Gaga and Madonna. Everyone might think they're different, unique, and freakish, but you know what? They thought outside the box, and that's what brought them the success besides having the talent. So it's a combination of a lot of factors. And then finally, hard work and persistence will always pay off. I don't care what you do. Ultimately, if you incorporate the other factors that I talked about, if you work hard, diligent, and persistence, it will always lead to success.
What have you done in your business or career that was out of the box that stands out for you?
Well, I think we've taken a lot of significant risks, with, first of all, just getting into the cigar business. I thought for somebody that's from India, that's not Cuban, that's traditionally not from a family that had great grandfathers and parents and grandfathers in the business, I thought that was out of the box. Then when we launched our products, the taste profiles, the strength profiles, the complexity of the different tobaccos, that was very unique in the industry that nobody had ever done before. Certainly our packaging and graphic design and artwork was different. Our ad campaign was different. We brought luxury lifestyle into cigars instead of just sitting in Bayaveras in a farm or on a horse or, showing that you were a farmer. We took cigar smoking out of what they call the Vajiro farmer stage to something that is a cool lifestyle luxury stage, and made it more dynamic and fun. The type of boxes we introduced, the lounges we're introducing, Burn Lounges by Rocky Patel. We opened our first one in Naples 5 years ago. We're getting ready to open another 6 of them, starting with Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Atlanta, Oklahoma City, hopefully Frankfurt, Germany, Dubai, many others. Well, they're some of the nicest lounges in the world. And it just happens to be a mixture of so much diversity in culture, architecture, and design that people transcend into a journey when they go there and they go, wow, what a cool place. Women love it. Young people love it. Old people love it. It's the only cigar lounge in the world that I know where people are dancing halfway through the night. So we've added fun to the whole art of cigar smoking. It's not a bunch of grumpy old men sitting around in a dark room smoking cigars and drinking scotch. We've made it a lifestyle, and that's what it's about. You have to have some sort of fun and culture doing it.
Nice. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And Rocky, before we wrap this up, one last question. What type of legacy do you want to leave behind, and how do you want people to remember you as?
Well, I think the legacy I would leave behind is that anybody can do whatever they choose to if they put their heart and soul behind it. And I think we've shown that, we've made some of the finest cigars in the world. We're not stopping there. We plan on introducing and making some of the finest scotch and wine in the world. We've brought something fun to life, and we've made your lifestyle much more fun with all the different products we're offering. But one thing you can take to the bank is that when you buy a Rocky Patel product, it will be the most consistent, guaranteed quality product. And I think, as far as the cigar industry is concerned, the legacy I'd want to lead is that he fought hard and he turned over every stone to prevent the government from trying to destroy this particular industry.
Yeah, I really hope that works out for you. What's next for Rocky Patel Brand Company?
Well, we're working on some spirits. We're certainly working on building these burn lounges that are going to be some of the nicest lounges in the world. So I think that's, we're also building some very, very nice, we call it Rocky Patel Luxury Lifestyle Homes in Naples, Florida. But that's just a fun side project. But I think the spirits and certainly the burn lounges, that's going to be the next venture that we focus on.
How can people get in touch with you, or where can they buy cigars from?
Well, if you go to any retailer around you in the country, you'll find our cigars. But you can certainly go to rockypatel.com, and it will take you to the closest retailer next to you. It's a pretty... It's actually a beautiful website that also teaches you about and takes you all the way from seedling to box, teaches you about our strict quality control standards, our flavor profiles, but most importantly, it will bring you to a retailer near you in a very easy way.
Excellent. Yeah, and anyone interested in celebrating life, a milestone, or just want to enjoy a cigar to relax, please go to rockypatel.com and check out the world-renowned collection. You won't be disappointed. Rocky, I just want to thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy individual. When are you coming to Atlanta?
Possibly in the next 3-4 weeks. Let's see what happens with, we're opening a lounge in Atlanta next to the new Brave Stadium. So I've got to come up there and check some things out. But possibly in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Not sure once I'm done with all the trials and tribulations in Washington, D.C.
Well, I do appreciate your time, Rocky. I hope to connect with you, and I'll look forward to the Burn Lounge here in Atlanta.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.